In my humble opinion, diversity in itself is not a strength. Just because an organization has workers from different backgrounds or the workers themselves are different, it does not mean the organization is going to thrive.
These are people that, might have lived experience, already that they're passionate about this work. Again, if you're asking around diversity, inclusion, and equity, when you're looking at your values, your company values and your mission statement, you might get some feedback there about who's really excited about this work without saying, hey, we're looking for people for this team, because you still want to be able to see who you've got. But you might get a really good idea at that stage of, oh, these are people that have a lot to say. They seem to have a lot of knowledge. They're really, excited about this kind of work.
Benchmarking serves several purposes, Nicole. One of which is to provide information that illustrates a situation. Right? It's kind of obvious, but that's one of the purposes. Now, what's less obvious are three more purposes of why we might want to be doing some benchmarking. First one is it acknowledges a need or an opportunity. When we say, hey, let's get some data on this, we're actually saying there's a problem or a success that we want to highlight, but actually getting the data helps to acknowledge that. And then the third step, or third reason, is it legitimizes action and accountability. That we've agreed that this is something important to measure, and we're going to keep measuring it, so we should do something to help influence progress on that. And if we don't, we have to have that real internal conversation about why do we start measuring in the first place. Next in line is comparing, which is, does our count change over time? Does our count change by business unit? Or how does our count match up with other companies? Now, you can't do compare until you have some count, right? But it's easy to do counting once you've had a conjecture. It's like, oh, is my gut true? Let me ask a few people.
Right.
Next up in that list is contribution, which is, do any of our actions or influences seem to be making a difference on our count?
The D&I, diversity inclusion strategy, really should be part of your HR strategy. And HR strategy should be supporting where the organization wants to go.
Whoever it is, no matter how passionate they are, you're going to want to start with some training so that everyone's on board. And so everyone really understands, especially leadership, obviously, and unions, if they're involved, why this is being done. And so everyone can fully engage and be on board.
So in this organization, they first set their benchmark. They want to achieve 95% and higher customer satisfaction rate. Based on that benchmark, they thought about their vision. Their mission is to serve customers, to stay ahead of competition. Then they involve the key stakeholders, who are the customers, who are the employees, who are peer leaders, unionized environment as well, so the union representatives. And then so the observing, analyzing the results took almost a year. Implementing the new strategy, making all the changes, took another year. And this is a company that we're talking about 200 full-time equivalent staff. So it's definitely not a huge company, but it's not small either.
Some of the celebrations and acknowledgements are industry or professional specific. So you're an architecture group or an engineering group. And what are you doing in those spaces to support inclusion because of the work that you do? How are we engineering our workplaces to allow people to navigate through effectively so they can be in meeting spaces if they have a wheelchair and it's not kind of an odd thing that they're now included in some weird, way, some difficult way. The second one is the top number list. You're a top 20, a top 50, a top 100 in something, and it might be a top 50 company for diversity, best employers for diversity in 2020, Women's Executive Network, the top 100, right? These are all great things, but they're a separate category of being a top something and recognized for that. And then the third kind of form of recognition or celebration is more issue or group specific. So a Corporate Equality Index Award by Human Rights Campaign is an example. Disability Equality Index or Gender Equality Index, where corporate performance is correlated with transparency in something. And so there's been a target where we feel like we've been excluding a group, and now we're recognizing how inclusive we are of that group. Have also developed a program or a recognition to help support diversity and inclusion. So we just want to give a small mention to it. This badge program has 6 different components to it: accessibility, compensation, leadership capacity, learning, performance excellence, and staffing. And again, you'll be able to look through this sheet in more detail. But the reason why we developed this program is we looked at, again, some of this research and our own interests and needs around diversity and inclusion, and we noted the need for targeted, practical aspects of workforce management versus high-level company performance or singular programs and statistics. So what are companies actually doing in meaningful areas of human resource management that's making a difference for diversity, equity, or inclusion?